Is there anything that I do in particular that maybe I'm not realizing that I'm doing that keeps it from coming tomorrow? Or
Only what almost everybody else is doing, and that is you're addicted to reality. You're addicted to reality, and you spend more time than we would talking about it as it is. Where we would be feeling for it. We would be feeling for what's coming up in there. That's the way we would jazz up our life experience if we were standing in any of your physical shoes. Because this we know for sure. You don't know it, and we do. And our words won't teach it to you, but we can tease you with it anyway. And that is, what's in your vortex is incredible. And because it hasn't felt like enough of a reality, you haven't given it enough of your attention, so you haven't trained yourself. If you really understood this vibrational reality as we do, you would do nothing other than try to release negative thought and get feeling good. That's what you'd be doing all day, every day. Someone would say, want to watch the news? And you'd say, no way. Someone would say, have you got a newspaper? You'd say, I never touch the stuff. Someone would say, did you hear what happened to so-and-so? And you'd go, in other words, you would care so much about, if you even had an inkling of the magnificence that you've lined up for yourselves in your vortex, you would put up with not one negative conversation. You would not utter a complaint. You would train yourself into complete vibrational compliance with who you really are. If you could even catch a glimpse of the bigness of what you've carved out for yourselves, you would not utter a complaint at all, you see. We've been saying that, have you ever come to blows with someone as a child or as a teenager? Have you ever just punched them and they punched you back? If you've been there, Jerry was there a lot. He punched somebody out every day for a good period of his life. He was trying to make the world a better place. He just would not behave. But we are suggesting that, or you've even seen it in movies, how people can push themselves. They can just keep pushing until it just escalates bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. David Koresh in Waco pushed, and the government pushed back, and pushed, and the government pushed back. And everyone standing back and watching it knew that it was going to escalate into something uncontrollable, and it did. And then Timothy McVeigh pushed still further, and you see what we're getting? On and on and on it goes. And so what we are suggesting is, as you stand there with your fists ready to punch, if you could just understand that punching is going to get worse, not better. If you would pull back your fists, even though you don't want to, and maybe even though you would be justified if you did punch forward, if you will withdraw from that action, it will be better than if you proceed with that action. That's just a law, because there is no such thing as assertion in this environment. In other words, everything is about attraction. You cannot punch things and make them go away. The more you punch at them, the more they come to you. There's no such thing as no in this inclusion-based universe. So then we are saying, and that's easy for a lot of you because you live in a somewhat civilized environment and you don't think about coming to blows about things. Now think about the last argument that you had, and how you held a position and someone else held an opposing position. And when you argued, did they agree? Did you? Or did you just come more firm in the rightness of your position? In other words, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, but so did the tension. In other words, it didn't get you to where you wanted to be. It took you further from where you wanted to be, maybe gave you more detail, but so we're suggesting in the same way that you pull back your fists, that you pull back your words. Don't say it. Don't say it. In other words, Jerry and Esther have occasions where they'll look at each other and the look on each other's face will be, don't say it. And we're not just talking about each other. We're talking about, don't say it to that person, even though that person really should hear it. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let's not go there, because it will get a lot worse. It doesn't need to get worse before it gets better. That's the point that we're wanting to make. It doesn't need to get worse before it gets better. And the fists will make it worse, and so will the resistant outside the vortex words. So don't say it. Now, let's take it further. Don't think it either. Don't think it. In other words, don't practice the perpetuation of that. Well, but you say, well, I can contain myself with my behavior. I cannot punch them out. And I can even contain them with my words. I think I can do that. But I can't not think it. And we say, yes, you can. You can resist the temptation to think that by thinking something else. And that's really the fine-tuning that we're giving to you. In other words, we want to make this vortex such a vivid reality for you and such a sought-after reality for you that it matters more than defending your position. That it matters more than... because your position has not only been defended, your position has been created. Your position has not only been defended and created, your position has been maintained by source energy. In other words, if you knew the care of your vortex and the certainty of well-being that is earmarked and place-marked and held lovingly for you, you would just decide to get in it, and you would decide that everything else is really a stupid waste of time. You just wouldn't argue with anyone. You wouldn't debate. You wouldn't turn on CNN. You wouldn't turn on MSNBC. You wouldn't watch Fox News. You wouldn't take some political stance against that and against that and against that and against that. You would say, life and my exposure to it has caused me to create the perfect life that's all shored up and waiting for me. How can I get in? You would selfishly decide how to become an aligned being with the life that you have carved out. That's what you would do. And you would wish them all well. Meaning you would wish all of them to find their way into their vortex too. So what would happen? What would happen if all of the people on the planet who all have different opinions about how life should be, who have been sifting and sorting and creating their vortices of creation, what would the world be like if everyone got into their vortex? Would it be the same world? No. Everyone would line up with the best that they'd carved out of their life. And no one would ask anybody else to be different so that they could feel better. You wouldn't need all those jails to house the renegades who don't agree with you. You wouldn't need all of that punishment or protection against people who are perpetuating violence. All those individuals or governments that are perpetuating it, because when you're in the vortex, you're not using your fists, you're using your vibrational alignment. In other words, and the good news is you don't have to wait for anybody to figure it out. You can just go to the vortex and live happily ever after. And anyone not in the vortex cannot negatively affect you if you've trained yourself into compliance with the well-being that your inner being holds steady for you. Isn't that nice to know? Mm-hmm. Enough?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Now what?